it wasn't something that I would lead with in my career because I didn't ever want to make anyone else uncomfortable. So it was like, get to know me. You're going to like me because I'm fun. And then I'll introduce you to who I am in my life and my family.
I just had the most interesting conversation with Shelley Hickman. Shelley talked about tragedy that she faced early in her life. She also talked about wanting to play softball for the Ohio State University. And finally, she shared with me life lessons learned along the way and how that shaped her into a much more authentic version of herself. I think you're going to love hearing more about Shelley Hickman. Everyone has a story, and today we're talking to Shelley Hickman. Shelley, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Tell us what you do for C&G.
I am the Director of Culture and Employee Experience. What I do in my role is I take the best of our culture across all of our locations and celebrate that.
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, culture is everything to me. I feel like if we have the right culture, our employees are engaged, our employees are happy, we don't have to worry about anything, do we?
No.
But it's easier said than done.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you for doing that job for the company, because it's, everyone has their opinions about culture and how to get us where we need to go. So we appreciate your leadership.
Thank you.
So tell me about your upbringing.
I am the youngest of three.
Ree.
I have had two older brothers. My oldest brother, we lost at the age of 20 in 1987 in a car accident. And then I was 13 years old at the time.
Wow.
I have my other brother, Kevin, is retired from the United States Air Force. He lives in Destin, Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and is doing really well. And my parents, I had a dual. Both my parents worked outside the home, which was pretty amazing. My mom stayed home with me until I went to school, and then she started working for Nationwide Insurance and retired there.
Mm-hmm.
And interesting enough, too, both of my grandmothers worked outside of the home, so I had a
Wow.
lot of really strong women in my life. Not realizing it, it was just the
Mm-hmm.
norm, but pretty grateful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That must have been so difficult at age 13, losing a brother.
Yeah, it was, I still deal with that
Yeah.
at this point in my life and the experience of seeing your parents go
Yeah.
through that.
Yeah. It's gotta, how do you think that that's shaped you into who you are? What impact do you think it's had on the path that you've chosen?
I think the one a couple of it's done a couple of things for me. One, you come to terms with death at a pretty young age,
Yeah.
and that our time is limited and we don't necessarily know when our time will come. And so how do you make the most of what you've been given? The other side of me is I think some of this is the youngest child syndrome too, is being the healer and making sure everything's okay and being responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Still to this day, if my friends come over, and it's funny because I'm almost 50, and if my
You're
friends come over,
almost 50?
well, I'm 48, yes, almost 50.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I
If
mean,
my
not that that's old. I'm a lot older, but you just don't look that old. So
Thank
that's a
you.
compliment.
Thank you. If my friends come over and they leave my house, you call me when you get home. Call
Mm,
me when you get home.
wow.
And it's just this ingrained, checking in on people, making sure everyone's okay, everyone's safe.
Mhm.
And it creates this mentality of being extra cautious because you just don't know what's around the corner. And yeah, just making sure everyone's okay as well.
Yeah. That's that's cool though. I mean, that's a good friend, right?
Mm.
When your friend is making sure that you made it home. I love that word healer too. Tell me about that.
Mm. I think everyone has a story, no pun intended, with how we started the
Yeah.
podcast, but people are going through things that you'll never know.
Yes.
And so we go through life sometimes and make decisions without understanding where the other person is. And so I love learning about people and learning about experiences. And oftentimes when we meet folks, we think of them from the time we met them on and not what brought them
Mm,
to where we are today.
yeah.
And even as an adult in conversation with my mom, in that experience, just a little bit more insight, I had a friend spending the night with me the night that, my brother's accident happened, and my friend and I were home alone with my mom when the county sheriff came to the door at 10:30 at night. And so I was, essentially home alone with my mom when she was told that her oldest child had been killed in a car accident. And so as an adult, it took me a couple of decades to just talk with my mom about that. What was it like
Yeah.
going through that as a mother? And there are parts about that experience she doesn't remember that
Mhm.
will forever be burned into my memory.
Sure.
And so it's giving her space to share those experiences and also celebrate the time that she had with my brother and tell me those stories.
Yeah.
Like, what was he like as a kid? Because he
Mhm.
was 8 years older than me, I didn't have a lot of time with him. And so it's just giving people space, one, to share their story, share their experiences, learn about them, what makes them who they are today, what they've overcome, what they're challenged with. I just people are fascinating, which is why I love what I do at CNG
Mhm.
because we have the best people. We have
Yes,
the best people.
we do have the best people. And I love that, an analogy about people, we're like icebergs, right?
Mhm,
You just see a little bit on the surface, but there's so much more underneath.
mhm,
There's so many more layers to people than what we understand.
mhm,
So tell me about your parents, your
mhm.
mom. I know she lives near our Lexington plant, right?
She does. I grew up about 20 miles south of the Lexington campus
Mhm.
and 20 miles northeast of the Delaware
Oh,
location.
okay. So right there.
And played in competitive sports with Ontario.
Oh my gosh.
So, I'm just saying that if I would have I probably saw Brandon Hall at a sporting event when
Oh
I was
my
in high
gosh.
school.
Oh, how crazy is that?
That is funny. But my parents I lost my dad in 2007. He had, kidney cancer. And he was a tool and die maker. He loved to work with his hands. He was a creative, empathetic, introverted soul.
Mhm.
And he didn't like working for big companies. So he always worked for a privately held owner, private owner. Yeah.
Private owner.
Private
Yeah.
owner. Yeah. It's just usually him and maybe two other machinists. And so they made molds for all kinds of different handgun handles, machine parts, but just he loved to create things. And my mom, at one of the adult conversations, like, Mom, why did you go work outside of the home? And she was like, Well, your dad wanted to pursue his passion
Mhm.
and we needed benefits because we had three of you.
Ah, yes.
And I needed to make sure that we were taken care of. So she started her career. She had 1 year of college, started working at Nationwide, and continued to get promoted into managerial roles and leadership roles. And it was she became the primary breadwinner and just had a phenomenal career in an industry that I don't know that she really set out to do that, but she's just a real go getter. Phenomenal. They're just yin and yang. Sometimes I'm like, do y'all even like each other? Mom, don't listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Um, but I always joke about some days I'm like, I don't know that y'all really like each other, but if there was ever anything major with my brothers or I, the world stopped and those two got together. It was, what are we doing for the kids? How do we make sure they're okay? How do we make sure they're safe, happy?
Yeah.
And my dad was also, s- the world was my oyster. Do whatever you want to do.
So you were daddy's girl.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Uh-huh.
That's nice though.
Yeah.
So having a mom working outside the home, because I also had that as well. Um, was that uncommon in the town that you grew up? Most moms were home, or do they work outside the home?
A little bit of both. If they worked outside the home, oftentimes it was in the local community.
Yeah.
So we lived 45 minutes north of Columbus. So my mom left at 5:30 in the morning,
Wow.
carpooled to Columbus, got home at 5:30 in the evening. So it was long days. What was really cool, I played all sports, actually similar to Lori Ford's experience, all sports in the band. I cheered for a few years.
An overachiever.
Yeah, yeah, and very social, needed people, and my mom had this rule of she went to the oldest's games if there was conflict, scheduling conflicts, the oldest gets first priority, and so by the time I got into all of my more competitive sporting years, my mom was far enough in her career that her coworkers would cover for her and she could leave, and she was at every game, even in college.
Wow.
I think she missed 2 of my softball games in 4 years.
That's amazing. That's
Mhm.
dedication.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she when she's in it to win it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just like her daughter.
Little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So tell me about where do you live today? Tell me about your life today.
I live with my partner in Racine, Wisconsin, which is, an hour and 15 to 30 minutes from Milton,
Mhm.
30 minutes south of Milwaukee, and 1 mile from Lake Michigan, which is beautiful. So I will take Lake Michigan. I will do without the snow. I
Yes.
do not like the snow.
Yeah. We kinda have to put up with it here.
Mhm. So true. Yeah, so I'm, nicely an hour train ride from Chicago, 6-hour drive to Superior or Lexington, just depends on which direction you wanna go.
Mhm.
So it works out well, I can get to all of our facilities pretty easily.
So what do you like to do when you're not working? What's your favorite thing? Like, what's a good day for you look like?
I love to be out in the sunshine. Um, I love to do DIY projects to build things similar to my dad. If he was building something, we were usually helping, and so he was a great teacher.
Mhm.
I love to be, in competitive any type of competition, whether it's a sporting event or a bar game
A bar
or,
game.
or
Like arm
bags.
wrestling?
No, no, no. What's that game where you toss the ring and you have to get it on the
Oh,
peg?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The bottle ring toss.
yes, yes, the bottle ring toss. I will play, Uno,
Uh-huh. Yep.
whatever you wanna play out, dominoes, bags, I think cornhole,
Mhm.
whatever you call it, depends on where you're
Yep.
from, Wisconsin
Yep.
or Ohio. Yeah, so I like to be active and I love to travel. Love to explore different cultures. It's just so filling for my soul to be with people who are different than me and experience their culture and their way of living.
So tell me about an amazing trip that you took recently or maybe your favorite trip you've ever taken.
My favorite trip. So I've spent a lot of time in Puerto Rico, Vieques, Puerto Rico, which is amazing. Underdeveloped. You're with the people when you're there, and it's on the Caribbean, which is also amazing because I love beaches. My favorite trip, though, was back in 2011, 2010, and I had the opportunity to go to South Africa
Wow.
and spend time in Johannesburg. I was doing some sustainability work for a former employer and just got to be in the communities and with the people, understand something different than what I had grown up with. It was just a really life-changing experience.
Did you get to go on a safari?
I went to a couple. I did not do an overnighter, but I
Uh-huh.
did get to go through a couple of the lion parks and the wildlife parks
Yeah.
outside of Johannesburg.
So is it different than going to the Animal Kingdom at Disney?
Tiny bit. Yeah.
Yeah, like you could be eaten out
Yeah.
there.
Yes. There
Yes.
was that element of, are the windows up?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the lions are coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
It
that
was
sounds
really
great.
cool.
I hear the sunsets and sunrises are beautiful there too.
Mhm. I wish I would have gone to Cape Town. That's on my list.
Okay.
And Barcelona. Like to go to Spain.
Yeah. So on your do-it-yourself projects, tell me about something that you built recently.
So just last weekend, I actually purchased a table saw. I was pretty
A
excited.
table saw.
Yeah, so I could hopefully cut straighter lines on my boards because I rushed a little bit. But I built a privacy barrier on the underside of my deck. which was really, really cool, and then installed a, stepping stone pea gravel walkway along the outside of the deck. I was pretty impressed with myself.
Wow. It must give you a sense of accomplishment.
It does, and a check-in on, as the older I get, the kinder I am on my body in those
Mhm.
situations. Lift with your knees,
Lift
take your
with your knees.
time.
Oh, come on, you're not even 50 yet.
I know. I need to preserve, you
Yeah,
know?
preserve, there's no problem with preserving. So, if you can meet anyone, who would it be and why?
Michelle Obama.
Oh, okay.
I just think she's a class act.
Mhm,
I've always admired influential leaders
mhm.
who model behaviors that I think make the world a better place. And every time I've seen her, I've been able to see her speak a couple of times live, or watched her or heard her interviewed. She just carries herself in a way. She knows who she is. She's handled adversity with grace,
Mhm.
um, and just advocates for healthier wellness programs at the root cause of things to make, yeah, just to make lives better for people.
Yeah, it's so important, I think, to find people that can build up others and inspire you and make you realize there's more you can do, more all of us can do to make the world a better place.
Mhm. Have you met her?
No, I have not had the opportunity to meet her,
So
no.
if, rubbing elbows in
Yeah,
Chicago, I thought maybe you.
yeah, maybe someday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, other than Michelle Obama, when you think about things that, inspire you
Mhm.
or things that you wanna listen to, keep yourself motivated, energized, thinking about new ideas, who do you turn to?
Brene Brown.
Ah, Brené Brown.
Yeah, Brene Brown is, her style. One, she curses like a sailor, even in
Yes.
churches, which I'm a fan. But her self-awareness is off the charts. Her ability to connect with people. She's courageous, so she lives in her values and also is honest when she falls outside of them. And she just has all of these little nuggets and tools that, living in the vulnerability space, I don't know about you, and my mom still says this today, like, "Shame on you." And so dealing with vulnerability and shame, and like, what's there to be shameful for? Like, I don't want to
Mhm.
be ashamed of something,
Yeah.
like I want to be proud and real. And yeah, she has a couple of podcasts, which one is on leadership and the other is more on, I should know the name of that. Daring Greatly is one of her podcasts, Daring Leadership, and I can't remember
Yeah.
the name of the other one. But great tools and just insightful takeaways from her guests that she brings on.
Yeah, and for those listeners who aren't familiar with Brené Brown, she speaks a lot on vulnerability and vulnerability as a strength. And vulnerability is really the way to connection with others.
Mhm.
And the more vulnerable you can be, the more you can share your authentic self with others, the more other people will relate to you and open up. So, really important work. So, Shelley, let's turn the table, give you an opportunity to ask me any question you want to ask me.
Yeah. I gotta think about this. You can cut that part out.
No.
Oh, if I could ask you any question, what's the greatest lesson you've learned in your
Wow.
career?
Greatest lesson I've learned, be true to yourself. So I pride myself today on trying to be as authentic as possible, but I wasn't always that way. So earlier on in my career, because I took a very non-traditional path and, was a woman in manufacturing back in the early 80s when I was the only woman doing what I was doing. Um, in order to fit in, you kind of blend in, right? And so there were many times I found myself earlier in my career um, not speaking up and being my authentic self. And I think it was a lesson for me Because when I think back on my career, those were the most unhappiest days, when you feel like you need to change yourself to make other people happy or to fit in or to be a
Mhm,
certain way.
mhm.
And so that lesson has really, stayed with me throughout my career and I think has helped me today to be more my authentic self.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Kathy, in terms of being authentically yourself. As a woman in manufacturing for most of my career, also as a lesbian woman, it wasn't something that I would lead with in my
Mhm.
career because I didn't ever wanna make anyone else uncomfortable. So it was
Mhm.
like, "Get to know me. You're gonna like me because 'cause I'm fun, and then I'll introduce you to who I am in my life and my family." And as I have transitioned in my life and grown, I realize how fortunate I am to be surrounded by amazing people. And there are a lot of people out there who aren't as lucky and have they're bullied, they're abused, they're threatened, all the things. And so I've made the decision to be my authentic self through and through, inside and out, that congruity, that connection. And my partner is the executive director of the LGBT Center of Southeast Wisconsin. And we do work all the time in this space to create safe spaces for people who don't have that network in the community in Southeast Wisconsin into Northern Illinois. And we're always making sure people know that they're good
Yeah.
and
That's
beautiful.
yeah. That's so important. I mean, mental health issues today are such a pandemic, really. It's the new pandemic after COVID and getting having the opportunity to reach people and help them be okay with who they are, right?
Mhm,
So important.
mhm.
So if you could go back to age 18 and redo any part of your life or make a different decision, would you change anything?
I would. The one thing I wish I would have done, and some of it is growing up in small town USA. I started playing softball at the age of, I think 7. My mom says younger, but I was always on the field and very competitive, very disciplined, loved the game. And I wish I would have gone. I ended up going to a small D3 school, Bluffton University, go Beavers. Played because I love the sport. I always wish I would have gone to Ohio State and tried out for the team.
Ah,
I know I could have made it. To
you
this
would
day,
have.
I'm like,
You
"Oh,
would have
I
made
could
it.
still make that team,"
Yeah.
right? I can't stop them all to save my life, but, I wish I would have had the courage to go big.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Courage is one of those things that we get more of the older we get. The more mistakes we make and the more bad decisions we make, the more courage we get. It's
Mhm,
the way life works.
mhm.
I've learned new things about you today, Shelley. I feel like knew you pretty well, but it's so, like we talked about, the icebergs, discovering new layers, what's a little bit more under the surface. Shelley Hickman, you inspire me.
You inspire me as well.